Hi there, Lei. Nice to see that you have sent us your first set of essays. I'm really happy that you're on the course and you're progressing. So let's take a look at what you have written in this first set. My name is Ellen. I'll be doing the corrections with you. So let's see what you wrote here. The topic is schools being more entertaining. So here's what you said. While most people assume that educational institutions should be more enjoyable than educational, I believe that school's main objective is to teach children to develop youngsters' skills to face real-life situations. This essay will discuss the issues using examples from the U.S. government and the National University of Australia to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Now, the first thing I notice is that there's a mistake in that first sentence. You want to avoid that because really remember that your introductory paragraph is it's essentially the first impression that the examiner gets of your writing, and so you want to aim for accuracy here, especially in that first sentence. You started off with while, which means that you need to have two contrasting sentences essentially linked to each other. So don't put a full stop here and just connect these sentences so that they are one, okay? And let's see what it sounds like. While most people assume that educational institutions should be more enjoyable than educational, comma, I believe that school's main objective is to teach children to develop youngsters' skills to face real-life situations, okay? And then the rest of it was fine. So let's move on. Firstly, most people would agree that academies should be amusing and fun to students. This is largely because traditional methods of learning could lead to boredom of children. For example, recent studies by the U.S. government show that 9 out of 10 pupils do not remember information when taught in a boring way, and 80% increased, what? This should be one word, increased. And 80% increased in students, I don't understand this actually. Let's see. And 80% increased in students' attendance was, no. And an 80% increase, no D, in students' attendance was observed when entertaining methods were introduced to them, such as teachers telling funny stories before the lesson, making funny faces to get young people's attention. Okay, so you had some grammar issues here, but other than that, I thought it was good. Secondly, there is little doubt that schools aim to teach and not amuse students. This is due to the fact that educators are hired to give children education and not to engage, with no D, in leisure activities. Also, school children should ignore normal values and school rules. School children could ignore normal values and school rules eventually would lead to unmanageable behavior. All right, we have to fix this. Also, school children could ignore normal values and school rules, eventually leading to unmanageable behavior. Take, for example, recent studies by the National Australian University, which indicated that the number of school children involved in bullying and defiance, that the numbers of school children involved in bullying and defiance have teachers which are lenient in their methods of teaching. All right, grammar again. There's something wrong here with this, the numbers. You could have said that higher numbers of school children involved, etc., have teachers who are lenient. Okay, so you were missing some stuff there to make this grammatically correct. Okay, therefore classes should focus on, not in, on education rather than entertainment. To conclude, from the examples and arguments given, I strongly believe that school's most important role is to educate children and not to, don't use this word fascinate, it's really the incorrect word here. To entertain them would have been fine. In the future, it is predicted that all educational institutions will continue to help students to learn and develop their skills to be ready, not skills and abilities, just one or the other. So, develop their skills to be ready for the challenges of life. All right, so it's fine in terms of task achievement. It's fine in terms of coherence and cohesion, but there were errors in grammar, okay? In some places, those errors created some incoherence, okay? So all you need to do is look at the band descriptors to see where that places you when there is some incoherence. It wasn't a huge problem. It's not like the whole essay was incoherent, but there were some areas of incoherence, okay? I think the vocabulary for the most part was good. I don't remember any of it really being problematic. Okay, so I want you to work on your grammar a little bit. Now let's move on to your second essay, which I assume is here. Yes, okay. Doing an enjoyable activity with a child. Let's see what you wrote. Experts around the world believe that a child could improve different skills and be innovative by doing entertaining hobbies with their parents or elders, while others think... All right, again, you can't use while like this. You have to connect while to another sentence, so make it just one sentence. Experts around the world believe that a child could improve different skills and be innovative by doing entertaining hobbies with their parents or elders, while others think that reading books and the like are more better. No, get rid of the like, okay, and also get rid of more better. It's just better, okay? So while others think that reading books is better, because reading books is one thing. In my opinion, I strongly agree that there are notable advantages of doing fun things with a child rather than reading, okay? This essay will discuss these issues using government and university studies to demonstrate points and support arguments. So again, we've got a little issue with grammar. Apart from that, it's fine. Moving on. Okay. On the one hand, it is certain that reading is the best way to broaden a child's knowledge and skills. This is because a young person's reasoning skills and imagination are being triggered by books, magazines, or any publications. For example, a recent study from the Department of Education of the Philippines showed that a child who is inclined to reading books can give more information and imaginative... What does that mean? Imaginative what? I don't know what that means. Do you mean imagine? I don't really know. Imaginative what? I'm confused. So inclined to reading books can give more information, maybe, and imaginary details, maybe, about a specific topic, and and give examples than those who are not into books during a debate or informative speech. All right, as you can see, I struggled with this a little bit. It's some of the language, it's just not particularly natural, and it's a little difficult. So I want to read it through one more time, and then we'll try to correct it in some ways, okay? It's a long sentence too. Maybe that's part of the problem. Look where it begins. It starts all the way up here, and it goes down to the fourth line. And so that should be your signal that it's too long. And that's sometimes where you run into difficulties. When you make sentences that are too long, then you run this risk of making errors that you otherwise would have avoided. So let's try it one more time. For example, a recent study from the Department of Education in the Philippines showed that a child who's inclined to reading books can give more information and imaginary detail about a specific topic. Full stop. These children can give better examples than those who do not read books during a debate or informative speech. Okay? So I think that's a little better. Now, don't forget to end the paragraph with a linking statement to your first sentence. So something like therefore, it is clear that reading is an effective way of preparing a child for future challenges, or something like that would have been nice, okay? All right, moving on. Let's see. On the other hand, there is little doubt that a youngster could establish skills and creativity when their parents join in recreational activities such as sports, dancing, acting, or art activities. This is due to the fact that skills like social interactions, which are skills are needed by a child in the real world, could not be developed through reading alone. Take, for instance, a child who wants to learn swimming, he could not master, or she could not master the different swimming strokes while reading how to do it, but through experiencing them and practicing them. Also, a child EQ and A could grow if who encounters difficulty. If he encounters difficulty doing different interesting hobbies such as rock climbing or playing a musical instrument. This can be seen in recent studies by the Harvard University, without the, which indicated a 45% increase in the number of enrollees for the last 3 years. Okay, I'm a little confused by some of the information in this paragraph. I want to read it again. You're saying here, what are the skills that children are developing? That's the first thing. You say that they can develop skills when they're doing these activities. That's because social interaction is needed. And you also say then that a child learns to swim through experiencing this. You also said that AQ and EQ grow through different hobbies. And then you talked about Harvard University, and I didn't understand that. So there were a couple of places here where I really didn't understand how your support linked back to your ideas. So I don't understand how this increase in enrollees in Harvard has anything to do with the previous sentence. And I don't understand how this thing about swimming and learning different strokes has anything to do with social interaction. So I felt like your support didn't match your actual main ideas. So make sure that they're closely aligned and that they make sense with one another, okay? So let's see. All right, let's move on. To conclude from the examples and arguments given, although reading is one way of improving skills and creativity in a child, I firmly believe that doing interesting and entertaining activities like sports could trigger progress in one's skills and creativeness. It is predicted that most institutions will encourage parents to spend time with their children in doing more, you don't need the in here, doing more recreational, entertaining activities. Okay, now, let me tell you what my big concern is. We talked about some of the grammar, we talked about some of the task achievement, some of the development of this, and that maybe it's not even just task achievement, it's also a little bit of coherence and cohesion, because I felt like some of your support didn't link to your ideas very well in this essay. Apart from that, there's another issue that I want us to talk about, and it's this idea of creativity. Now, you spent a paragraph talking about reading, and that's fine. I think that's a great idea. But you're also supposed to talk about better skills, which you did, and you're also supposed to talk about creativity. All right? And you know that they expect you to talk a good deal about creativity because they actually separated it from the other skills. You mentioned creativity a few times. Let's see. You didn't mention it here in terms of reading. You mentioned it here in the beginning. All right? You mentioned it in your conclusion. But that's pretty much it. Like, you didn't really talk about it. You simply mentioned it here. And I don't think that's enough. You actually needed to donate some time to it. So what activities done with a child could develop creativity? And also my question to you is there anything that reading can do to develop creativity? Okay, because that would have been an interesting element to talk about as well. So I absolutely feel like you should have talked about creativity a little more. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is your thesis sentence. You said, in my opinion, I strongly agree that there are notable advantages of doing fun things with the children rather than reading. And, okay, fine. And then you had this paragraph, this whole paragraph, it's called a concession paragraph, dedicated to reading. But there was nothing in your introduction that led us to understand why, or that let us understand that you would develop it like something like this. I don't know if that makes sense. In other words, what you needed to do was you needed to express, you needed to kind of give us this idea, this kind of, I don't know, maybe like a heads up essentially, that you're going to talk about reading as well. So here, it shouldn't have just been I strongly agree, but it should have been that, in my opinion, while reading prepares children in many ways, such as giving them knowledge and information, I believe that there are notable advantages of doing fun things with a child instead. Okay, so show us that you're going to talk about both of these sides. All right, that for me was missing here. So it's those two things really for me that were the big thing in terms of task achievement. All right, and then there were a lot of grammatical things as well. So let's talk about the next step. The first step is for you to correct these essays based on the suggestions in this video. The second thing for you to do is to create an error correction list where you write down the mistakes and next to the mistake what the suggested correction is. Keep adding to that list with every essay correction you get back. And then the third thing you need to do is write a new essay, of course, write a new set, send all three things back to us together. Try to get this done in the next day or so you can really apply everything you're learning, okay? I'll be here. I'll be looking forward to reading them, so good luck to you.